What up, all
Welcome.
you virgins? It's the boys. We're back from a long hiatus. I kept trying to get him to come back on here and do a podcast with me. Uh, what would you say about that? Lies, or is that fair play?
I think the people can decide that one, and I think we have a very smart audience, so I think they can pick up through the nonsense.
This is true. Now, we've just figured out finally how to work the soundboard, so this could be a real problem today. Thank you. Thank you. Settle down. But in just our warm up getting in here, I've been having a little bit too much fun playing with that. So I'm gonna try not to get sidetracked with that. Uh,
Making
we are
fun of
both
me.
we're both streaming today from our professional cameras, so that's a first.
Yeah,
Um,
so just like last time, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm checking, making sure it's all focused and stuff like that. Because there's no screen on the camera that I'm seeing because I have the A7 III. But yeah, exactly. Finally, we decided to get on a professional uh, system.
so I will be looking over here from time to time just to look at our audio levels and things like that. But for the most part, I'm gonna try to stay looking at the camera. It's a little new for me to be looking at this camera instead of the computer, but you know what? That's the price you pay when you're trying to get more professional with this. It has been a while, so maybe we just do like a little check-in and talk about all the things we've been up to. Why don't you tell me about your wedding season so far? Because I think the last time we did anything was kind of before, right at like the heaviest part of wedding season when it starts to kick off. So how have you and your team been doing through the wedding season?
All right. So 2 weeks ago, we had 16 weddings, or not all weddings. It was probably like a dozen weddings and then like a few events that were in the pipeline of being edited. And I mean, I said a big thank you to the team because, dude, there is no way that I could be doing that by
Yeah.
myself. 16 jobs to edit is a lot. Like our turnaround time would definitely suffer if I was doing it by myself. So that's how busy it's been. That's also why we haven't been coming on to the podcast to speak as much, because it's either we're podcasting or we're getting work done. And obviously, one will take priority. We're doing our best, but we're back.
We back. Yeah. Same man. Wedding season's been this might have been the hardest wedding season so far. Like a lot of it has to do with like a lot of my shenanigans in scheduling, like maybe too much travel, trying to do too much. I've learned a lot this year about the limits of signing up for doing too much stuff as a one person business. So like, yeah, it's just been like a
Well,
learning
let's tell the
season.
people. Let's not beat around the bush, because that was one thing that we wanted to discuss today. The top thing on the agenda was, what is it? Where we try to be Mr. Nice Guy and try to do everything and say yes to everything, but I said why you can't always be the nice guy, and sometimes you have to say no for their day to go smooth. I don't know how much in detail you want to go into that, but we were talking about this morning. If you want to take the floor.
Yeah, I'll go into detail on this. So I played myself a little bit with a wedding. Now, maybe a few weddings, but one in particular where in the lead up, I had so much going on that I did when I'm creating the timeline and hearing everything that this bride wanted to do. I didn't push back much, and I didn't push back much, and it's not an excuse, but I just had so many different things going on. Like I'm hearing the things that she was wanting to do. I'm like, yeah, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And I learned like the valuable lesson of like you got to push back, not just for you, but for their experience as well. Because I had a situation where a couple, most mainly the bride, wanted to kind of do everything that you could possibly do for a wedding day. First look. Not only was there a first look, there was five of them. There's a lot. Every kind of toss you could have. anything that you can think of that you've done. Oh, I did that once before at a wedding, or yeah, I've done a first touch, or yeah, I've done a first look. Anything you can think of that you've done at a wedding was all done inside this one wedding. And some of them, like I just mentioned with the first look, multiple instances of it. And it was like a constant. You're used to some lulls in different parts of a wedding day. There were no lulls. It was constantly doing something, doing something, doing something. And as somebody who shoots weddings, who loves what he does, just like you, like I wasn't having much joy in it. And the whole time I was sitting there thinking, how the fuck is she having joy in this? Like we're constantly going from one place to the next place to the next. I'm like, she didn't, there's no way she could have enjoyed her wedding as much as she could have. And so I just learned, not just for myself, but for them, maybe to offer up some pushback. But at the same time, I'm sure we'll both have situations and have had situations where we push back, but they still push forward anyway. And in a situation like that, as a photographer, you got to suck it up and just take it. And if somebody is forced to have that much stuff and they don't enjoy their day, well, fuck it. As long as you educate them on it and tell them, how that could affect your day, and they still want to go through with it, go ahead. But anyway, the end result of that, I want to say, is that I learned that I need to do a better job of pushing back on somebody that's trying to cram way too much in a wedding day. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're saying is absolutely true because we always want to be positive. We always want to say, yes, we can do this because we can. The point or the point of contention is just because we can, should we? And that's one thing that I remember mentioning this to you before, and we mentioned it on the podcast. This bride did a first look with dad, then she did a first look with like the bridesmaids, then she did the first look with the groom, and then she goes, "Can we do a first look with the groomsmen?" And at that point, we were already behind, and I didn't say it in a mean way, but it's kind of like the groomsmen are not going to give you the reaction that you think they're going to give you. The groomsmen a lot of the times are there to get drunk and party and whatever. And I'm generalizing right now, of course. But it was almost like I said, if we do that, we probably are not going to have as much time with you guys. And I would rather do more photos with you together right now. And then we'll do photos with you and the groomsmen later. And she was cool with that. I've had situations just recently where the bride wanted to do immediate family photos right after the ceremony and then a ton of extended family photos. And I could tell it was partially because of her and it was also partially because of mom. Now, what I explained to them is that we're going to be doing table photos during the reception anyway. People are going to be coming up to the front to the head table and taking photos with you every single table. So we're going to get a representation of every single extended family. So we can either do the extended family groups right now, and then we're only going to have about 5 minutes, if that, for bride and groom portraits, or we'll tell the extended family to go and enjoy cocktail hour because you guys paid for it anyway. Let them go enjoy cocktail hour, and we're going to do extended groups when we do the tables. Basically, I'm giving them options. I'm not telling them what to do, but I'm giving them exact facts. If we do this extended family, we're going to have 5 minutes with you guys, if that. They listened. They sent all. I spoke up and I said to everybody, "Hey guys, thank you so much for waiting. We're going to be doing extended families a little bit later. I need everybody to clear the room out, go to cocktail hour, enjoy cocktail hour, and we're going to get to you guys later." I had to be the bad guy. I was fine with it. And they were able to we ended up squeezing a good 15, 20 minutes with the bride and groom. And we did every table shot later. So it's a matter of explaining to them the options. These are the options, and this is the consequences.
Yeah, because they don't realize that there's consequences to that shit. Like this wedding I had, like there was like a first look with flower girls, bridal party, obviously groom, dad, like, and I'm just like, yo, why these little girls, the flower girls, they don't give a shit about this. Like they want to be back, inside eating Tootsie Rolls and watching their phones. Like they don't give a flying shit about this. But like we kept doing it, and then I had another time where like adding on to the extended family more and more shots, and golden hour was fading, and I just remember myself and a videographer just continuously saying, "You're going to lose golden hour if we don't make a move." And they kept wanting to do more and more families. So as long as like in between shots, I would come up to her. I'm like, I'll keep doing this for the rest of the night. I don't mind doing that as long as you know you're really about to miss golden hour. If you're cool with that, I'm cool with
See,
that.
but see, and I'm almost fine with that. If it comes to doing family portraits over bride and groom portraits, I can almost see the justification. If your family had traveled from another state, another country, whatever, I would rather do more photos with my family than do photos with my wife, who I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know we can always take photos together, but we have aunts and uncles and all. I'd rather do I get that, but first look with like everybody. I was going to say, when it comes to that, I'm not trying to be negative again, but I think it's because of this social media world where everybody wants that social media post. Listen, the groomsmen, they're not going to care as much as you think they're going to care. The bridesmaids, yes, they're always great. The reactions, dad, I can always see that being amazing. Grandpa, same thing. But there comes a point where it's like, are we doing this because it's significant to me and this other person, or am I doing it because I want these photos to show to everybody, to show off to everybody?
Yeah, and you know what it
I could
is
be
like.
wrong, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it plays into it.
Well, I think
Oh, you
that's
know
it.
what? I'm gonna I'm gonna say this. Back when I started in 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10, first looks like that didn't exist. It was a first look with the groom, and rarely we would do a first look with dad. But we weren't doing first looks with everybody to get a reaction out of them.
Yeah, I think I think you're right, and what I think it is, because I've heard a lot about this in the lead up to some weddings. I think it's competition with their friends, other brides, like their sister, or their other friends that have had weddings. Oh, I got to out. We got to outdo that wedding. Oh, I saw she did this. Well, I wasn't planning on doing that, but now I'm going to do it. Like I've seen some of that in some of these. Well, what did Catherine do for her wedding? Yeah, we'll do that too. Like it's like a competition thing too on social media between their friends to make sure that their photos are more fire and they get more shit during the day. It seems, which is really strange. But because like if I get married again, I ain't
It's a
doing that shit.
society. It's a society we live in, and this isn't. Let's be straight here. This isn't the majority of couples. This is a minority. The
Yeah.
majority of our couples are genuinely in love. They're doing it because they care about one another. They care about their family, all this. That's the majority. But there's a minority who does care more about social media than they care about the moment. And for me, I think also because we are a little older, Scott. Like, a lot of the couples that we're shooting, they're in their 20s. You know what I mean? We are speaking with a slightly different. I know we're not in our 20s anymore. It's hard to believe. But it's a slightly different generation. They grew up with social media. We didn't.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't date people in their 20s.
All right, moving on. What was the next? What was the next subject?
Let me look it up. Thank you, people. The people said Scott has a point. It's a good point, Scott. Uh,
We're gonna do the do's and don'ts with shot lists from couples, which kind of relates to this, but this is something that you mentioned. So I'll let you take the floor.
do's and don'ts from Shotless.
Hmm.
Uh, well, one, I would just coming back off what we just talked about right there. I would counsel somebody going forward against doing that many first looks. Like, because I'm always pushing a first look on a shot list, obviously. Like, if somebody wants to do that, I think every photographer is going to be excited if somebody's going to do a first look because you get to knock out all that crap, uh, portrait, family, bridal party, and all that shit before the ceremony so that you have the cocktail hour and you can
Well,
kind of just
Scott,
do bride and groom.
don't be so romantic, please. All that
Oh,
crap,
well,
all that shit.
yeah. So we can knock
What
out all
Scott?
that
I'm gonna
shit.
let me translate what Scott just said. What he's saying is that if you're a couple and you're listening to this and you do a first look, what that means is that we're going to do family photos at a nice pace. We're going to be doing wedding party at a nice pace. We're going to do couple session at a nice pace. And we're not going to be cramming that after the ceremony. It's completely your choice if you want to do a first look or not. But as photographers or videographers, we prefer to do a first look, that you guys do a first look. So that way we can go at a decent pace instead of rushing everything at the end.
Well,
There you go. A little translation.
that was well said. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
that was well said. Thank you for that. Yeah, no,
Now,
you're right. I should probably.
what would be? Sorry,
You
go
got it.
ahead.
No, you're right. I said I should probably speak a little sweeter about what I'm talking about here.
Now, what would be don'ts actually? Because that's the topic. You were saying there were some things that grind your gears. So let's get into it.
Let me get this
Oh,
popping.
we didn't even have a candle burning for the first 15
No,
minutes.
we
What is
got one
this?
now. You know, I got a cut on my finger. You probably can't see. Yeah, right there. Look at that. That happened yesterday at Bath and Body Works. Little side note. These assholes. They gave me a bag where like the bottom of the bag was not put together right. Only got two candles. And I walk out, and as soon as I step out, the bag rips at the bottom. And I'm sitting there, and one of the candles shatters like everywhere. So I go to pick it up, and I notice that I'm bleeding. So I don't know how that happened to me. Blood everywhere. I take this shit back inside, and would you believe it? These assholes wouldn't give me anything free. I was in a full Karen meltdown. I was like, I can't even get a wallflower, maybe like a hand sandy. Like you gave me some shit, and now man's bleeding. Anyway, that was a side note. But we're burning a nice little sweater weather candle right now. Um, the don'ts for the to dos and when it comes to shot lists, like another thing is like, I'm, I, how are you with Pinterest boards? Because I've been two different ways about it. I'll let people send me Pinterest boards of like, oh, I like this and this and this because I know a lot of people are against them, and I know I have my own work and my own portraits and how I do things, and I understand that. But I do like to see if they send me a bunch of stuff, if there's like a recurring theme throughout some of the stuff that they've sent. If it's something that I'm not doing yet, I will do it and make sure I at least pick one or two. Because what we're not going to do is get to a wedding and then be looking at a fucking Pinterest board and make sure we get this, and this. Like you can't operate like that. You hired me for a reason because this is my work and it must have stood out because that's why you hired me. You're sending me some other stuff, some of which I haven't done. I will try to at least screenshot or try to do one or two of these photos that you've specifically sent to me, but it's not something I'm just going to key on. So when thinking about shot lists, um, I'll incorporate a few if a couple sends me some on Pinterest or something like that. But for the most part, if you signed me because you like my work, then you got to ride out with what I'm doing. What say you on that?
See, very similar. I do think though that the whole Pinterest board thing is a little old school. We don't get it as much out here, or at least we don't get it with TNK Photo. I know when I used to shoot for other studios, they would get it sometimes. But it's also, in my opinion, is have you encouraged it? How you have you even brought it up? I never bring it up because I don't like it.
Never do it. I don't
But
bring
if
it
you if you ask me about a Pinterest board, I'll tell you, send me 3 photos that you can't live without. There's going to be, if there's 3 photos that you absolutely can't live without, we will absolutely do those. But the thing that I don't want you to do is send me 20, 25 different photos. And now, just as you're saying, we're following a list the entire day. And when we're done with your wedding, you have somebody else's wedding as your wedding collection. What I want to do is give you, if you really have 3 photos that you can't live without, send me those. I'll take care of those. And then after that, we're going to give you a ton of photos that other people are going to want. That's the goal, is to give you something so unique that other people are going to want that. So with Pinterest boards, we don't really get them, but I always say it to them like that. I want you guys to have amazing, unique photos. I don't want to give you something that's been repurposed 30 different times.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, and I feel like that's something that we give people anyway because we use off-camera flash. I feel like a good majority of the photographers out there don't use off-camera flash. Like the majority of the ones here that I know of, and I'll say the majority around my market, they don't use off-camera flash. So like anytime we're out somewhere and we got our stuff out and we're cooking, like I always know that I'm going to give them something that somebody else in this area is probably not offering or giving. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's one way
yeah,
to look at it.
that's
'Cause we're just as good, if not better, than these cocksuckers that they're sending on these Pinterest boards. So we'll get a few, but you assholes need to sit tight and let us cook a little bit too.
I mean,
Long run.
I didn't put it. Uh,
That's what I meant to do.
Settle down, everybody. Settle down.
Yeah. When
I didn't
daddy's
put it.
preaching, we got to cheer.
I didn't put it as eloquently as you did, but I think we're sending out the same message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah. I preach, Ellie. Go ahead.
now I was gonna say I think that pretty much covers. I think that's the biggest don't is send out be so micromanagey that you're sending out so many quote unquote ideas or things that you want to copy that it now hinders the day because we're distracted trying to please you with photos that you may not even have liked that much. Because I've also had this in the past where they send them to me and I'm like, oh, the Pinterest board, let me bring it up. And they're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Like they literally, you know what I'm saying? Like they kind of picked it
Yeah.
because they were bored and then they didn't really care about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as long as you don't encourage it, I think that you're not really, we don't, like I said, I haven't gotten a Pinterest board, dude. I'll be honest, in years.
Yeah. Now I had somebody ask me the other day. That's probably the first time in a few months that they were like, "Hey, you're not offended if I send a board I found or something?" I was like, I don't give a fuck. Send it. But doesn't mean I'm going to be living off it, because the last thing any of us are going to do is have a fucking checklist out on the day of a wedding. So, did I get this? Did I get? Meanwhile, you're doing all this nonsense. You're missing Nana and somebody that they haven't seen in a while, having a hug and an embrace. So, like, again, just something else to counsel these people with. Now, I'm looking at these notes and I'm seeing somebody submitted some questions to us. Who is this person?
Yes,
We have
Lydia.
fans that
So
submit
Lydia
questions.
is well, last week I posted, or a few days ago I posted, what questions would you guys have that you want us to answer on the next podcast? And she's a future bride that we're gonna have, and she sent out some questions. So I was like, oh, sweet, like this is what we want. We want interaction. So if anybody has any questions, we'll put it on the next one next year. Uh,
Shout out Lydia.
so Lydia, she said so many questions. How do you deal with drunk people when you have to photograph them? Scott, go on.
Depends on the drunk person. So if it's somebody that I actually need photos from, assertively. I had this the other day at a wedding where the groomsmen were all drunk as shit, and it's that time of the day where you're having to do a full bridal party shot, and they're trying to be silly. They're talking over you. You're trying, and so eventually you have to fucking yell at these people like they're toddlers, and maybe yell isn't the right word, but get stern and be like, "Hey, hey, hey!" Like I have to increase the tone and the bass of my voice to be like, "Listen, I know y'all want to go and party, but we have to get this done. So if I could get everybody's attention, like you have to talk to them at some point, especially when they're drunk, as if they're toddlers. Because if they're hammered, and I've been hammered a good few times, and I know that I act like a toddler when I'm hammered, so I'm not trying to single out anybody else. But if they're acting like children, then you have to pick the bass up and the tone in your voice and speak to them like children and bark at them and give them commands so that you can get the shots that you need out. Once that's done, fine, go get tits up. Now, if it's a drunk person that is just a guest member and they're hammered and they're on the dance floor acting a fool here and there, after I get just a few shots of that, honestly, I'll just move out. I'll just go shoot something else. Like if they're annoying and they're not part of the show, like I'm not gonna let you bother me with your shenanigans and foolishness. I'll just go somewhere else and shoot something else.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you completely. When it comes to a drunk wedding party, whether it's bridesmaids or groomsmen, I speak to them not in a childish, term, but more in a reward type of, term. So just like you said, hey guys, the quicker that we get these photos done, the quicker you guys can go and enjoy the heck out of cocktail hours. So let's get this done. Once you get them on your team like that, they're all right, everyone, shut up. You know what I mean? Like they'll kind of police each other because they don't want one dickhead in the corner who's making noise to slow everything down, and now they can't go and hang out because this one doesn't want to, calm down. So I have had that where they start policing one another because they want it. Once you tell them, as soon as we're done with this, you guys can go to cocktail hour. As soon as you tell them that, they're with you. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to hang out with you. They want to go and enjoy they want to go to the bar and grab some food and whatever they can. Hell, I don't blame them.
Having been
And then
go ahead.
I was gonna say same thing with drunken guests when you're shooting the reception. Once we've gotten a couple of photos of them and we got what we need, the thing is you don't want to encourage them so much to the point where they become belligerent and like they're chasing your camera. Like you want to kind of interact with them, get a couple of photos, and then move on. So you're not feeding the behavior for them to act crazy. It can get a little uncomfortable, not for me. I don't give a shit, but like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want my team to get uncomfortable. And I've told all of them this. This happened recently, actually. I'm going to give you an example. I'm pretty sure the guest was drunk and she kind of pushed Caitlin a little bit. I didn't see it, one of our photographers. And I told her next time, you have my permission to say and do whatever the fuck you want because nobody should be putting their hands on you. I'm like, you have full permission. If anybody touches you, settle down. No, but for real, like if somebody's disrespectful to you, you have my permission. Do whatever. Tell me after, and I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Because nobody should be touching you. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, nah, that's wild. What else? I had another issue where I had like drunk guests because some weddings are in places where other people are occupying the same event or venue space, whether it's a resort or a hotel or a golf club or things like that. There's other people there that aren't part of the wedding, and I had drunk people running their mouths, talking shit to other people that were at this venue, and it was drunk groomsmen again. And I just wanted to be like, why don't you like? Eddie's not gonna like this podcast. I wanted to be like, why don't you cocksuckers shut the fuck up? Leave these people alone. Like they're here, they're sober, they're minding their business, and like you're calling it like different guys. Like it was like an eye-opening moment for somebody that used to drink a lot. I was like, this is fucking embarrassing. Like I'm the photographer, so I'm just shooting things, but I was embarrassed to be even in the same vicinity as them, as like we're part of one team. It felt like it was embarrassing.
But even when you would drink, you know what I mean, like and get into party, Scott, you were never a dick. Like that's just you're a bro, and that's how you are. And then when you drink, it gets elevated. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not gonna act like that if you're not like that naturally. So sometimes you do deal with stupid, bros that are, like you said, walking by or anything like that. I just kind of ignore them. I'm like, all right, whatever. As long as you don't get disrespectful, like we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, I just remember like seeing some of those people later, be like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry about that. Like, I don't have control of everything that happens today, but like, apologize." I just felt bad. Like, it's weird, but
Yeah,
although to
because you're
speak to
dealing with
what you
children
just
at that
said,
point.
yeah, like at that point, is man, you lock eyes with somebody that's just had some drunk idiot like shouting abuse at him. You're like, man, I'm sorry. These ain't my people. I'm just here
Yeah.
shooting it.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, you got to separate yourself at that point. Okay,
Lydia
here's
says,
we can move on from question
Lydia,
number 2 from Lydia was, oh, you good? Or you got something else on that
no,
subject?
you're good. You're good.
Cool. So Lydia said, "Will you let us know if we have something in our teeth or edit it out?"
Of course.
I would say I'll go ahead and answer this one first. I will let you know immediately if you have lipstick on your teeth, if you have food in your teeth, if your hair is a little messed up, because yes, the photos are important, but I also want you to look your best. You know what I mean? Like even with us on our team, as soon as somebody starts assisting with us, I let them know if any of us have something, we got a booger hanging, we got, our hair is all jacked up. Even if we stink, you let us know. So, because we have deodorant, I have deodorant in my Pelican case. Let us know. Don't let us walk around like a fool because you don't want to make us feel bad. No, like we will let you know. Hey, you have a little something in your teeth right here. Sometimes I'll even turn my cell phone, the camera, the front facing one, and I'll be like, here, check it out. And that way you can kind of fix yourself up, and then we can continue. because it's a lot easier, and we're your friend. Like, we want you to look good. We don't want you to walk around as a bride with, with food in your between your teeth.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That being said, I did let a bride go an entire day with a booger in her nose.
Scott,
I felt
explain
bad. I,
yourself.
I didn't want to be the person to be like, "Yo, you got a gnarled thing hanging out." That's, I went ahead and
But
just
you don't,
edited it.
you don't, but you don't
Well,
have to say it
it
like an
was an
animal. You can
interesting.
pull her aside, and here's what I would do. I would pull you aside and go, "Let's get you a tissue," and then just kind of point at the nostril. That's it. I don't have to
I,
say, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's get you a little tissue. Come here.
I was gonna pick it for her, but it was a booger that it wasn't hanging out. It was a little bit in, so I could just see it when I was zooming in on the photos on the back of the camera. I didn't have the heart to be like, damn, you got a big ass booger in your nose. Now I know there's better ways to say these things. Yeah, so I let Shorty rock around with a Slimer for a few hours.
Well, as long as she wasn't super tall, I think she would be all right then.
Yeah, no, she wasn't. No, she was all right.
Yeah. Well, that's where we differ, because I'll tell people I'm okay with it. I don't, you know what I mean? It's not anything embarrassing. We're all human.
Yeah, no, that's true. Lydia
Okay, so I
says,
think that.
"What's your
Mhm.
favorite season of the year to do a photo shoot in?" Uh,
We're gonna let
we're
you
gonna have
answer that. Go ahead.
we're gonna have different answers here because I feel like North Carolina gets more of the seasons than what California might get where you live. So like when we get fall, we do get like a proper fall. The orange leaves, it gets colder, and then winter and Christmas. Obviously, the best season for anything is Christmas, but the best season for shooting is going to be fall always. It's cooler, nice colors, gets darker a little early. I'm fucking with fall.
I'm gonna agree. Even in California, even though we don't get the foliage, we don't get the colors or anything like that, it's much cooler. So you're not sweating when you're shooting in the afternoon. If we're shooting an engagement session, if we're shooting a wedding, it's not going to be as scorching during the day. Um, I prefer that the sun goes down earlier, so that way we can shoot this earlier and everybody gets to go home and have dinner at a decent time. Um, yeah, I would say fall. Winter I don't really like, because in California we get the Santa Ana winds, and it gets really windy sometimes. Like, 50-mile-an-hour winds. It's like it's hard to shoot in those conditions. It's doable, but it's a pain in the ass. So I would say fall is probably no. It's definitely favorite.
Same. She finishes with the question: Have you ever had a wild animal interrupt you while you're working? I never have.
Yes.
I've had regular animals, like dogs, if a bride has included a dog, but I've never had a wild animal. What have you had?
So I was shooting this wedding in New York once, and this wild animal named Scott Stockton came, and he terrorized the entire day.
Yeah, yeah. Remember pizza in the hotel room that night?
Yeah, the wild animal strikes
Yeah,
again.
yeah. That
No,
night.
but can I?
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna answer it for real. A bear.
Oh
Not
shit.
during the bear didn't come to like the reception and partake or anything like that, but it was close to the like very close to where the vicinity of where we were shooting. And luckily there was an indoor location as well at this venue, so we went inside and we finished off the reception inside, and most people didn't know the reason why we moved inside, but they let us know, and we're like, okay, let's get the hell inside, everybody, because
I thought you were talking
that
about
would have
our
been
bear
bad.
story.
Which bear story?
Yosemite.
Oh, no, that oh yeah. Well, that also I guess would kind of count, right? It wasn't during the shoot, but it was on the way. We saw a bear.
Yeah, that was fun, dude. I was actually thinking about, and we had this conversation the other day. I was thinking about, man, that'd be fun to go do as many like national park, maybe not national parks. It's just be cool scenic places like Tahoe. I was looking at photos of that the other day. That place looks crazy. Uh, But
beautiful up there. Yeah.
so I rewatched that vlog often because it was just a silly goose time. Like we had a blast, and we ate at Rite Aid for dinner.
I mean, we should do that again. Just meet somewhere. We've talked about this. Like meet somewhere in the middle of the country, basically. Like find a location. Boom, we'll go there. Film a podcast. Film some behind the scenes. Film some tutorials. Like that's what we should be doing. But
Yeah.
life comes at you and you get busy. And then somebody stops picking up the phone, and then they call back, and I go, "Who's this?" And you go, "It's Scott, your friend. You remember me?" And I go, "Who?"
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, I
No.
think let's do. We
Let
probably
me.
have time for one more. Go on.
Oh no, go ahead. I was gonna mention two pieces of gear that I've been messing with lately, but I can finish with that.
No, go ahead. What
Go ahead.
pieces of gear?
All right. So because we like to document the shit we're doing, and we both do YouTube videos and behind the scenes and stuff like that. This little guy is new, and well, I've had him for a little while now. Um, I've been having a lot of fun with him. So this is the Insta360 Go 3. So just for comparison, to show you what we're working with, and I'm gonna give you the pluses and minuses of what this is for and what it's not for. Your regular
And
Insta360 looks like this.
hold on right there. I'm gonna also say you posted a comparison of this on your channel, right?
I'm filming the review to this guy right now. So this week
Okay.
on YouTube, you'll be able to see what the pros and cons are for both these. So this guy is bigger, obviously, but he also gives you 360 degrees, easy for me to say, on how to pick your frame after the fact in Insta360's editor. Now this guy doesn't. He's just giving you like the standard 180, but there's kind of different lenses inside, so you can go ultra wide, or you can just go wide, or you can zoom in a little bit. Um, and he's also smaller than what you're seeing here. So like the camera itself pulls out of the base. So then you got this little small guy, really small, versus the base. And what I like about him is he's magnetic on the back. So for B-roll and things like that, it's so much fun to use this because you can slap it on the side of your car, on the front of your car, on anything metal that'll let you stick. The base comes with a screen that'll flip up in case you were like. I always say pick the best tool that you have available. If you're somewhere and this ends up being the best tool that you have available, is the footage here going to be as good as what I'm filming on now? No, but it's still really good footage, and it's got some nice clean audio. And then if you can record and get your vlog in, so never not film just because you're missing some equipment. If you had something like this, it's going to get the job done for vlogging. But if somebody asks me what is this for, how I'm going to use this in my workflow for the videos, I'm obviously going to try to film everything I can with our main cameras. But to get cool little aspects of like if you want to get some fun B-roll of you pouring water into a glass, you can pop this guy out. He's waterproof. Put him in there. If you want to get footage of you driving and you're actually driving, and you're like, I don't want to have to stop and grab the camera, pop him out. He's magnetic. Just slap him to the side of the car and get a few seconds of footage and then keep going. So it's for me, it's a fun camera to get some good BTS, but also some fun creative B-roll. So that's what you would get this camera for if you're me. You wouldn't get this for any kind of main camera. Another thing that's cool, Elmer, is once you pop him out, this guy you can still use. You can still use him, like you can. So like I can aim this wherever, and so it comes with like a lot of little gadgets. Like I have a clip that can go on my hat. So if I want to just see what exactly I'm shooting, I can always look at the back of the screen and see, whatever I'm looking at. You know what I'm saying? So it's got fun
To
stuff.
compose.
Insta360 does a good job of creating fun little packages like that. But I'm actually going to keep it. There are some action cameras and things that I bought, gear that I bought that I've gotten rid of almost immediately when I got it. But that does have a place in my kit for creating content. The other thing I was going to mention is like I'm filming right now on the A7 IV with the Sony 14 1.8 G Master lens, and I'm loving this lens. Like
Yeah,
you and I have
we
talked
went back and forth. Yeah.
you and I've talked a lot about loving getting creative wides and creative portraits. So a 1.8, like I had a fun shot the other day of a bride signing a ketubah, and I got really close to her, but at 1.8 there was still fall off to the people behind her, and it was a really pretty, really cool photo. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've got some creative portraits that I used with the mag box at this wedding this past weekend, and it's my new favorite wide. And if nothing else, outside of the one that I used to use all the time, which was Sigma 14 to 24. Um, like you've said, with a wide, you're not always going to really see any depth of field, but you get more stops of light at least. And what I also like about this lens is it's like a third of the weight of the Sigma 14 to 24. So for a content
And
creator wanting to walk around and vlog and stuff like that, to have a lighter setup is nice. So yeah, these are two products I would recommend. This is my new number one wide, and I bring that thing with me everywhere. So new gear alert. You got anything new that you've been using?
no. I I don't change my equipment very much. Like once I find what works, I stick to it. Um I've been using the macro with the attachment again, the Nikon macro that I had, because I realized, for macro lenses, like, am I gonna go out and spend another 1,000 to pick up another macro lens when I'm gonna use it for one photo out of the entire day? I don't really think I need to. If I can, if I want to, but you know what I mean? Like I have the macro from Nikon, and it's normally I use macros in manual focus anyway, because it just
Yeah.
sometimes it just hunts too much. Now I will say the Sigma was really, really good, but again, that's going out and spending another 1,000 on that, and for a lens that I'm using, very, very sparingly. So yeah, that's pretty much the only thing is I brought it back because for a while I wasn't taking it with me or I wasn't taking it out of the Pelican case, but I've been using it quite a bit more after Dominic, our web developer, scolded me. He goes, "What happened with this ring shot?" And I go, "What happened?" He goes, "You're better than this." And I go, "All right, my bad." And then I went back to improving.
The Sigma lenses, they just seem so much heavier than any other brand's lenses. Have you noticed that? Like
It,
they just seem heavier.
I mean, I don't have too much experience if I'm honest, but like the macro wasn't really terribly heavy. That one was decent. The 24 to 70, I would say, is pretty average. It's not really tremendously heavy, though the front element is really thick. That's the one that I have on right now. Um, I think because you always go with the
You said the front element was
thick.
thick, so I just wanted to pop
Yeah,
that in
yeah.
there.
I figured. Um, I think because you play with macro lenses, not macro, I'm sorry, um, with prime lenses a lot. So you're playing with 1.4, 1.2. Those things are going to be, thick boys. So that's why you see the difference that I don't really see because I don't really play with primes that much.
Yeah, no, like yeah, it's just, and I think a lot of it had to do with, especially for Sony, when Sigma was one of the first ones to create lenses for Sony. I think they had like built-in adapters that they were already built into the lens that had to make them bigger and heavier. But I mean, if that's one way you got to get into the market, one last piece of new gear alert, which I'm hoping you and I will get our hands on. Tamron just came out with their 70 to 180 G2, the second version, the newly updated and improved version from the first one, which they published your work with the first one, and I didn't see anything wrong with the first one. So I'd be really curious to see what they've done with the G2, the version 2, and what improvements they've made. So, we got to get on the horn to our girls and see if we can get a copy.
Yeah, I would like to play with that because exactly as you're saying, I don't see what could have been improved. Like, some people were complaining that the original one didn't have vibration reduction or IBIS or whatever. IBIS is in the body, obviously. It didn't, but that's the thing. Like, since our cameras have in-body stabilization, I never felt like the 70 to 180 was not sharp enough, or that it wasn't, compensating enough for the motion at a long focal length. So I know they added it, but I don't really see how that was such a detrimental thing on the first one. I'm curious to see if it added a little bit of weight, because the original one was really light, and that's what I loved about that lens, is how light
It
it
was
was.
really light.
So yeah, I'm really curious to see what they've improved on. But I know vibration reduction or vibration compensation, whatever the copyright of Tamron, whatever they use, I know they added it. So yeah, maybe we'll hit them up and see if we can test those out.
Yeah, so y'all stay tuned for that. Look out for that. I'm positive she'll give us a copy because we've had a good relationship with Tamron. They send us stuff to use and review, and we get our hands on it, and then we give them images and content. So I'm sure we'll get our hands on that, but I'm sure I can already see the end review in my mind. Great lens, just like the first one, but it's not replacing the 35 to 150. It would never get on one of my camera bodies since I already have a 35 to 150. Unless I
It's hard to
needed more
justify it.
reach, like I just couldn't see myself caring that much about 30 more millimeters. The compression at 180 versus 150 is going to be negligible. Like I just 35 to 150, man. That's just the golden lens right there.
It's hard to beat that range. And yes, like you're saying, you're sacrificing an extra 30 millimeters at the end. And the significance in compression, though it is there, because sometimes some of our shooters still have the 70 to 180, and I do see at 180 there's something that's a little nicer about it, a little bit more, that depth of field looks really nice. But when you outweigh it with the convenience of a 35 to 150, that little bit of difference in depth of field is not going to convince me to carry extra lenses. It's not that significant, but it is nice, basically, in conclusion.
It is nice, and so the boys are going to try to get back on here doing this more routine. I need to hold myself more accountable to getting out here doing this. Same with creating content. Like maybe we need to start next time we get to do a trip. Maybe start creating content specifically for this channel on YouTube. How many more weddings do you have to finish this year out before it's like, okay, we have a lull?
Do you have a number? Because I'm going to have to count right now. Go ahead and explain to the people how many you have, because I don't know.
I have 5 left. And where are we?
1, 2,
Mid
3,
October.
4, 5. Yeah, we have more than 6, 7.
Damn.
We have a good amount. That's only and I'm not saying it like this to be braggadocious or anything like that. That's only getting into November. Because there's 2 there. Because a lot of the times, man, like at this point, like we double up almost every single weekend. I'm looking at it right now. Every single weekend we're doubled up, almost. Like doubled up on a single day. I mean, and then then we have another one on the following day. So yeah, we still have probably a dozen weddings left, at least.
I've done a shit job this episode of where I'm supposed to be looking. Half the time I'm looking at this screen, half the time I'm looking at the screen, the monitor on the A7 IV, and then half the time, or I should have said a third of the time for all that, then I'm back at the lens. This has been a cluster.
Well, keep in mind, a lot of people leave a comment below where you guys are actually watching this, or let us know, because I think a lot of people listen to this on Spotify also. I know Ida, she told me she doesn't use YouTube. She watches this on, or listens to this on Spotify. So it may just be a voice episode for a lot of people. Because, I mean, who wants to stare at us for an hour straight?
A whole lot of ladies.
And on that note, we will see you guys next week. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
was a little late. Well, it was a little late.
All
Yeah,
right,
we'll
Scott.
see you next week.
Go-
We're gonna keep it rocking. We're gonna get back to consistency. We miss y'all. Hit us also in the comments where y'all want us to travel to next, and who wants to join up and meet up with us. We'll have a shoot off or something.
Yeah,
All right, babies. We
Vegas.
love you. Bye.